At long last, that gameplay reveal was revealed this morning. Nice and early, and depending on where you were, I certainly had to wake up early, but exciting stuff. We're all excited. The long hollowing between information has subsided. And now we're eagerly waiting for that June release. Yeah, I'm excited. So let's get into what's been revealed. We're gonna talk a little bit about what all the details that we know, the Miyazaki interviews, and then we're gonna go through the trailer and scrub through it, and I'll give my impressions and such. I mean, here we go. Here's some screenshots. You can check out some of the screenshots on the official Bandai website or the eldenring.jp. Here's a little sneak peek of what you see. I'm assuming you've already watched the trailer. We're gonna do this before we go through the trailer. But I mean, I recommend, if you haven't already, check out the trailer. But some of the stuff, like for this example, wasn't even in the trailer. We got this is a different angle. Got some cool new moves, cool new bosses here. Some fresh looking stuff. Look at that. A pristine green machine. Okay, so then, there's the key art fella. We got a fun little worm fella, and some more torture. Because you gotta have some horrible, torturous, masochist acts in this Elden Ring game, right? Um, yeah, those are a little. It looks good. It looks like my first impressions when I first saw it. Like I was like, damn, this is like Elden Ring 2. It feels like, but let's temper some of those expectations. Let's simmer down a little bit. This is not quite Elden Ring 2. This is an expansion, right? First, you can. I recommend going through all these interviews if you can. The Famitsu one, here's translated because it was in Japanese, of course. Actually has a lot of good info that the other ones don't. But of course, the translation's rough. There's also the IGN interview. That one's a good one. And there's also the Eurogamer interview. Those are the main ones. There's probably some other ones. Who knows? Uh, Reset Era. Uh, they like kind of summed up. This post sums up a lot of the key points. So you can check those out if you want to get the details, the exact details. But as for the basic stuff, first of all, Miyazaki makes it clear that they had ideas for DLC, I guess, when they were making the game. But as they were developing, and they realized that there were certain elements they couldn't quite fit into the game. They thought, okay, maybe we'll just leave those elements for the DLC. Particularly, especially during the end of the game development of the base game. But then, really, he made it clear that the full development really started after the game was released, and really after a lot of the updates were mostly done or settled down for the base game. So we were suspecting it was in long-term development for a long time, but really full development it's only been like by the time it releases it's only going to been like maybe a year and a half or something. Um, so I guess don't expect like a huge like double the size of the game or something kind of release, but I think it's maybe a little bigger than Miyazaki's leading on, because I think he's kind of trying to like simmer down your expectations a little bit. He says that basically it's the size about Limgrave, like the map size of the DLC. He says even maybe a little bigger, perhaps, and I would imagine that would include Weeping Peninsula. We look at the map here, like this green area down here below. Maybe that could be roughly the size of the DLC. Maybe a little smaller. Maybe a little bigger. Who knows? Um, so maybe that's a fourth of the base game map. But it's also going to be denser. He mentioned, it's the idea was to make it a lot denser, more, uh, less like empty spaces. So even though there'll be some like fields, open fields and stuff. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's going to make it a better experience, better gameplay experience. And he mentioned it's going to be a little more seamless between the legacy dungeon areas and the open world areas. Um, and so so at first I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, maybe I was expecting it, especially after the trailer just looked so expansive. I was like, man, this is going to be like almost like at least half the size of the base game. Um, but we do know that from the Steam page, it is about 60 gigabytes apparently, and that's about the same size as the base game. So maybe it'll be so dense that it'll be kind of equivalent. And it is gonna be priced at $40. So that indicates it's gonna be pretty meaty. It's definitely the most expensive DLC they've got. And early rumors and reports came out saying that I think from Lance McDonald that the DLC was really going to be two DLCs, and so they combined it into one, similar to what they did with the Bloodborne DLC. So it's almost like maybe two whole DLCs in one, maybe. Um, so I'm not too concerned about the map size. Um, I think it'll be just right. In and if you look at this thread here, I found like someone asked this a couple years ago, was wondering about how Elden Ring's map compares to Dark Souls 3, and they're basically comparing like how like most of all Limgrave here is about the size of all the base game of Dark Souls 3, and that seems to be a good indicator. And also, we're kind of forgetting also that there's an underground area. There's a whole bunch of there's like two underground areas beneath Limgrave, right? There's like Noxtella, I think, or Nokron, one of the underground cities, and there's like Yofa River. Like that's a good chunk. So maybe the DLC, maybe Miyazaki was indicating that too. I'm pretty sure in the trailer we see some underground areas, I believe. So it could be pretty beady. And if Dark Souls 3 took about maybe 32 hours to beat, then maybe that's about how long it'll take to beat the DLC. And I think I did hear rumors saying that, like some people insiders saying that maybe that's about like how long it would be, like 30, 40 hours. So that seems pretty massive, and that's about half the time it takes for the main game. Um, and they do tend to undersell, how long or how big it is, because when the game first came out, or about to come out, the base game, I think Miyazaki was saying like it was, or somebody was saying it was going to take like 35 hours to complete the main story. But on first playthroughs, for sure, it was like at least double that for most people, right? And like I know for me, because I was like a completionist almost, like how I explored the whole every little nook and cranny. It took me about like 200 hours really to finish my first playthrough, because I was pretty intense about it. So I imagine DLC might even be like close to like 80 hours for me or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I think, expect, maybe 30 hours at least, Um, they've gone through a lot of things. I definitely recommend going back to the article. Some things that stood out is basically that it's not going to be in like an alternate timeline. It's like Miyazaki was saying how it's like in the present timeline, similar to the base game, not like from the past to the future. Didn't quite indicate whether it's like a dream thing. There's allusions to this being a dream world, as we see those like veils that come down from the treetop and on the Erdtree there. Um, and the basic idea is that we basically follow Mikola, uh, and Mikola perhaps maybe be like a guide, kind of like how Melina was in the base game, and we're like trying to follow in Milika's footsteps, and Milika in turn is following in Marika's footsteps, because apparently she's going into these Shadowlands, they call it. Um, and he did reveal the entrance, so it's what we all expected. You enter through the the cocoon in Mog's palace. Don't quite have an image here, but um, we'll take a look at the trailer. It's the first image, pretty much, and that's a bit surprising because I thought that maybe they would have an alternate ending or sorry, an alternate entrance, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll add that or something, kind of like in Dark Souls 3, where you could like enter the DLC in the end game or through a character in like the middle in the mid game or something, or maybe an early mid game. Um, but it seems that like I guess they're kind of like keeping people out until like they've gotten pretty well far in the game and mastered the gameplay really well and leveled their characters up pretty well, because you have to defeat Mog to get to that cocoon where McMichael's arm is hanging out there, and you know that's kind of late game. I definitely didn't. Mog was like one of the last bosses I did. I think you know after like Malekith, I did some of the Langdale stuff, and then I went on my first playthrough. Then I went to do Mog and Melania, and so it's kind of a bit of disappointment for people who want to get in there early. But if there's still going to be speed runs, you could technically get to Mog quickly by just doing Vari's quest, and and transporting there. You know, um, but the other thing is also that like there is like a little glitch you can do if you can look it up on YouTube or somewhere, where you can like basically deload Mog and defeat Mog pretty easily on any build pretty much by jumping off the map with Torrent, like with a little glitch. So, they might patch that out, and maybe they will because of the DLC entrance. But, if you want to prepare for that, you could do that. But another tidbit though, that wasn't really mentioned in any of the other interviews besides the Famitsu one, was that you also have to defeat Radahn. Like, not only do you have to defeat Mog to get the DLC, you have to defeat Radahn, which is a little much easier, I guess, than I would say than Mog. Um, and there's also some cheese methods you can do for Radahn, so it's not gonna be, the worst obstacle. Um, but yeah, so that kind of gives you an indication of like, where what level you should probably enter the DLC. Um, Other things that they mention is that there's not really going to be the ending of the DLC is not really going to affect the main game, so it's kind of separate, which is interesting. Kind of like what they do with other DLCs, I guess. But one thing that also no one else really mentioned, and besides Famitsu, is he said that there's going to be a separate like level up mechanic in the DLC. They the translation says offensive power, and he compares it to Sekiro. How in Sekiro you get like I think you use some beads or something after you defeat bosses to upgrade your attack power. Um, and so there'll be like some kind of element in DLC where like I imagine after you beat certain bosses, you'll get a power up and you can decide to use it or not. Basically, he's saying how like that helps you decide, how challenging you want the game to be, the DLC to be, and that these like items won't these power ups won't affect anything outside of the DLC. So it only applies to your power within the Shadowlands, the Lands of Shadows. That's kind of interesting, I guess that's in a way to kind of like uh, have the player balance themselves, like how they, to decide for themselves like how much challenge they want to face, how challenging they want the DLC to be, which is an interesting take. And I guess it's a easier way, I guess, to balance the DLC because people are going to be probably entering at different levels, whether it's like mid game or late game, depending if when they do Mog, I guess. But I'd imagine most people will do late game, I guess. Um, but yeah, so that was an interesting little tidbit. And another basic stuff is that there's going to be new weapons. Of course, he's mentioned eight new weapon classes. That's a pretty big number, So that's so we see some of those in the trailer. It says up to like 10 new bosses in the thing. So I think it's a good amount. You know, maybe I think he said perhaps even over 10 bosses. And they're still in development too. So I think like they're still kind of finalizing all that stuff. Like they might, which is I guess it's nice to know that they're still working hard on it. But also I'm like wondering, oh shit, is there gonna be a delay? Maybe. But there was no like multiplayer info though, unfortunately. Hopefully later on they'll do some multiplayer info. Um, but yeah, those are some of the basic stuff. Um, Check out their websites, Bandai. They kind of have a rundown of like what to kind of expect a little bit. All the editions. There's a collector's edition, all that jazz. There's like this bonus gesture emote, similar to what it did with the base game. But in the fine print, it does say that players can unlock it in the expansion. So I think that means that you don't need to pre-order it to get the gesture this time. You can just, get it in game eventually. So I think that's a good thing. Um, Apparently, there's like no physical copies of the Erdtree edition for the PS4 for old gen. But of course, you can digitally download it. Um, and you can read the details on that, and it's going to be like $40 basically for the download. But yeah, that's the basic things. Let's get to the trailer. Let's go through it and see what's up. See what's going on. Definitely a good trailer, exciting. I It showed a good amount, a good amount. I imagine they're still gonna keep. They've kept some secrets here and there. And again, it's like out of context, but the more videos I watch, the more lore analysis, the more I'll get an idea of like what's actually happening. But of course, it's a lot of it's speculation. Um, so I'm definitely not gonna watch the launch trailer because there'll probably be a launch trailer closer to the release. I didn't do that with the base game. And I think that one probably be a lot more revealing. But let's start off here. So we're probably gonna just go without sound here and go a second by second here. Start off with what looks like Melina, right? Could be, the player character dressed in a Melina type outfit. And we got a voice here, pure and radiant, could be a narrator voice, could be, what's his face, the all knowing dude. Pure and radiant. He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. So basically, that kind of means, I think they're talking about Mikla here. And shrive clean is basically to like hear the confessions of folk and like and provide some absolution, kind of like some kind of priest or something. A very forgiven type of demigod Michaela seems to be, and the person narrating seems to be opposed to that. So perhaps it is Gideon. Um, they say there's nothing more terrifying, so they're pretty terrified. It seems like the Golden Order is terrified of Mikla. Um, and we have, of course, the image of the corpse of Mikla coming out of the cocoon there with the blood we see from the Mogwin boss fight. This is the Mogwin arena here. Um, that's the entrance. Later on, someone does mention like touch the arm to go to the DLC, to go to the lands of the shadows. And here we got our first look at these new lands, and it's looking kind of like a little bit like Limgrave, isn't it? Really a mixed match of like of Altus as well, and it looks pretty expansive. You know, so this is kind of like what we saw in the teaser image in the first tweet like a year ago, right? Of Nicola riding in these lands of reeds. Although we have more buildings in the background there. But I wonder if like perhaps there the other side of the old Erdtree. There's a big old plain of reeds, maybe, but I don't think so because it's the image in that from that is from this angle as well. I think that was just mostly concept art, right? Um, but I do wonder, like, is there going to be a circular landmass around the Erdtree, or is it going to stop at that Erdtree? And really, it's kind of like an Erdtree grasped by a halig tree, perhaps, or another tree, two trees entwined. You know, that its own shadow is consuming it, perhaps. And of course, what's probably most striking, besides the main trees wrapped around each other, is this veil. These like curtains coming down. Like that's um used to be a baldaquin, which is what you put over like a fancy bed. So like a veil to kind of like keep the light out, right, and give you some privacy. So I think Miyazaki even alluded to or he said that basically it's kind of alludes to the idea of like this world being kind of hidden from the outside world, hidden from the lands between. Um, and I think it also, I'd imagine it kind of would indicate, I imagine like the boundaries of the world. And so it kind of gives you the idea of like, okay, this is not like super expansive like the base game. We're gonna have some edges here. And I think it'd be kind of cool to get to the edge of the map and look at those veils just flowing in the wind there. It's really dreamlike, very like ethereal, spiritual, ghostly veils. So this could be a type of dream, as we all suspected. Um, and so we'll see. Yeah. And let's continue through the next bits here and there. We got what looks like another rune. Some people were speculating it's a kind of weapon or something, but I think it looks too flimsy, too thin to be any kind of weapon. Perhaps some kind of marker. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's specific to this character. This could be an NPC. We are gonna have a bunch of NPCs um, trying to like decipher what Michaela's up to. What Mikola is up to. Um, and we're gonna probably make friends with them or enemies, as Miyazaki says. This could be another NPC. Um, some cool armor for sure from these two. We get to see a nice like looks like a Roman skirt almost, and revealing some thighs there. That's nice to see. You don't get too much of that in the base game. I'm kind of hoping for a lot more cool fashion as well. Maybe reveal some midriff too. Why not? We got a Havel looking dude here, preparing some pot or something perhaps. Could they be like maybe some kind of smith or merchant? Weapons, of course. We're gonna see, and here we have interesting. An enemy would seem just taking a big old nap, just taking a nice little nap here in this little valley of slumber, perhaps. Yeah, purple like, reminiscent of the mist of slumber, like sleep magic. And could this be an introduction to that cut content from the base game where originally they planned for you to collect dream mist? Could they be including that? I don't know. Probably I wouldn't bet on it quite yet, like because it's like they probably were focusing on other things, decide against it. But maybe definitely going to be more dream stuff uh, in this little playthrough. And could it be a sleepy mist forest that as you walk in you get sleepier and sleepier, and you need to constantly cure yourself? I don't know. Another thing Miyazaki talked about in one of these interviews is that he realized himself, based on all the people discussing it, that he's into swamps in games, and like apparently he put another swamp in this DLC that's kind of a culmination or a reflection of that desire he has for swamps. Because look at that, another swamp right here, and this kind of looks like a deathblight swamp. That might be a little more interesting than sleep swamp, because an instant death versus just being stunned all the time to sleep. But before that, we do get another character here. Looks like a friend of Renala. You know, could it be a parent of Renala here, giving you the side eye? Maybe they could be a character that you can respec at, so you don't have to go to Renala all the time to respec. I don't know. It could be a boss, could be a friend, could be a foe. By the way, what are they saying here? In Forsaken Place, blood must spill. This is and I think they're talking about Erdtree followers, is what they're saying. The blood of your fellows, the Erdtree faithful. So they're definitely against the Erdtree, perhaps against the Golden Order. This probably a new NPC in the world, a new quest giver, perhaps. You know, telling you to go spill some blood. Um, that little swamp, by the way, you know, really nice little area, gloomy area, like a witchy bog area, reminiscent of the Shaded Castle in the base game. And then we get this interesting portrait. There's a lot of speculation on who these people are. It does definitely look like Morgott before he gets horns or after he removes horns. But if you look at that brooch there, that's gonna come up later on. So I think we do see this character later on in the trailer. I think it's not. I don't think it's Morgott. I think it's a new character. And then the woman above them there, you know, one could consider that maybe could they be a deathbed companion? Could they be a kind of you know, a servant or something, or it could be, you know, a friend, a lover. But I think what it kind of she kind of looks like Saint Trina, you know, from the Saint Trina torch. If you look at that, it has like a nice image of Trina's head there, and it might be Saint Trina. I don't know, you know, who some people heavily speculate that Saint Trina and Mikola are the same person. We'll find out. We get another cool shot of a spiral staircase, I guess. A spiral, or it could just be like a ledge in this cavern here. But look at these pots hanging. Could this be where big pots are made? The pot people, where they forge pots, maybe in this little volcano area. Um, Definitely reminiscent of the Dark Souls 2 DLC, that lava one with all those chains, and this thing actually like spins. There's like a little fan in here, you know, spinning up the lava. You know, but it looks like it fell down or something. But I don't know. Not sure what the purpose is of that. You know, maybe they're trying to drain the lava or something. Maybe you can drain it by using some kind of lever. And then and by the way, we're seeing a lot of like the player characters in their starting class gear, as well as the wolf gear from the original reveal trailer for the original base game. So, you know, not many new stuff, but here and there we do see some new fashion. Now we go to see it looks like some kind of legacy dungeon, right? This might be the Stormvale equivalent, I would imagine. It's on the left side of the tree, as we can see, and in the back there, which is interesting, is it seems like the upper part of this castle here is being like disintegrated. It's like, you know, turning into a shadow dust and then floating away. Kind of similar to Far Missoula, maybe a little bit. Perhaps like kind of death blighty. That's really interesting. The whole structure up there is like that. Really cool design. Really imposing. Looks pretty dense, you know, but also compact. Hoping it's like as big as Stormvale Castle, you know. But I think, you know, closer to the Erdtree would probably be like the Langdale equivalent, I imagine. And this other character is saying how like the people here weren't saints, they just happened to lose the war. So it would seem that perhaps America or the Golden Order sent the losers of the war they had, I guess the war of the shattering or whatever, and they sent all the losers over here to the lands of shadows. A lot of the rejects are over here, so that could be an interesting lore bit there. We'll see. We get what people are calling a Wicker Man, or Fire Giant 2.0. Cool design, like a brazier and with fire inside. And I think Miyazaki mentioned that this in particular, there's corpses in there. They burn the corpses in there, and perhaps um, used to cremate corpses, and perhaps use that to fertilize the Erdtree back there. Who knows? Um, Pretty menacing, definitely that interesting little face there with like looks like a sun, but looks like the omen thorns, misbegotten thorns, omen thorns, or horns. Seems to be like a world boss too, not like a legacy dungeon boss. Another worm face looking creature, similar to the worm faces without like worms in their mouths. They're just actually a big old worm themselves, it seems. And here we have probably the most interesting looking boss in this whole thing. Kind of looking like a little bit kind of like a Chinese dragon, with like people inside. It seems like two or three like people inside controlling the movement, dancing around, fighting you with lightning and mist. And you can see an arm like shut shut the close the mouth here like that. See, so it's not. It's like just like a big old mask, and it's got like double set of teeth, like humanoid horse teeth, and then an outer more fangs like lions. Got like the omen horns as well. Interesting creature. Could be similar to, could be like the grafted version of the Shadowlands. Like or the kind of like Morgott or Margit in the base game. Or not Margit, Godric. So many different names. Godric was the grafted, right? Godric the grafted. Because it's like a combination of different animals here, different creatures. Um, and again, the warrior class outfit. You know, I guess they just didn't want to give away too many different outfits, but it would seem to indicate that they were trying to make this accessible early on or something. Like you can just get in this DLC area with your starting class, but it's apparently not, according to the interviews. Um, I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but it won't be easy. We got some cool effects. Just how the way this fella moves is just so cool. Um, Definitely probably one of the most memorable bosses I think in this trailer. In addition to this one, now this one, different, interesting look. I wasn't completely sold on the look. It was a little bit, too overdeveloped, over too complicated look, kind of looking a bunch of snakes or like overly designed. I thought maybe, but it's growing on me a bit. Um, People compare this to Rykard, but it would seem that he could be another child of Marika. Marika Radagon's got that red hair that Radagon has. Um, he's saying right here, mother. He's talking to his mother. Could it be Marika? You know, some people are saying the formless mother could he be attached to Mogwin perhaps? That spear is kind of Mogwin looking like. Um, Definitely using like some kind of blood flame almost like it's like a new type of fire. It could be a new type of fire, and I think the outfit, the braces and the greaves there, like they kind of have a similar design to the God Slayers, the God Skins. I would say then the red and the dragon kind of looking armor too is interesting. It's like a mix of different things. But if you look closely, it's really the snakes who have those wings. The wings aren't on the armor. I think it's just like the snakes that either come out of him or just surround him have these little wings. It's almost like they're trying to become dragons. There's definitely some kind of connection there, perhaps like a lesser dragon type of magic. Um, kind of mixed between, maybe, snakes could be considered a lesser form of a dragon. Um, and here we get a peek at some new weapons. Seems like it's some dual wielding curved swords here with like some fast moving action there. Seems like a Ash Award. The way that the guy's holding it here though is like, you know, upside down almost, right? It's like a dagger type of way of holding it. Pretty cool. These enemies here, they got these little candles and they're blowing it to shoot fire. They also look like they have like some kind of omen horns. And this looks like it could be an underground area or maybe a cave or something. Kind of, or it could be a little swampy area, right? And then we got these daggers, throwing daggers, and they you throw them, but then they reappear in your hand. It's like a dual dagger, a twin dagger weapon. The Ash War is probably able to throw kind of like Spectral Lance, but with daggers, so much faster. Fighting this like shadow creature, a shadow ghost, using the same cleaver that the Misbegotten use in the base game. And this kind of gives me some vibes of Celia from the base game, where there's all those ghost wizards, but now it's like these shadow people. Maybe could be like a shadow town. And beautiful, look at that. Butterfly magic. Can't say no. Can't say no to this. It's always good to have some pretty stuff, some feminine pretty stuff in this game too. Not just all the grimy, grungy, medieval stuff. It seems that we're getting a good variety of stuff. And it seems to be an incantation, so I think maybe my fairy build will use this. That uses the probably go good with like the Scarlet Aeonia from Melania's magic or flower power. And then of course this fucking kick. My warrior nun's gonna be using this. Seems like a whole new set of weapons here is these feet weapons, I guess. These kicking boots, and there's like a mist around their legs too, so that can kind of indicate maybe the hitbox or something. And there seems to be either maybe a boss, kind of reminiscent of the castle where you fight the Crucible Knight and that big misbegotten creature, the one before Radon. I don't know. I kind of get that vibe here. It could be outside the boss, but there's a fog wall down there. But maybe that armor and that twin blade would also be available later on. And now we got also a freaking big pot, the biggest of pots. So a new craftable pot. Go and boom. That's always cool. Nice. And we got this speedy machine gun bolt here with some dark armor, kind of looking like the Knight Rider's armor. Look at that. Could be a little bit concerning in PvP, getting a bunch of three gankers on you with that all at once. With bleed bolts. Maybe there might be some balancing. Maybe it'll just be really weak or something, even though it's really fast. We'll see. It looks kind of like perfume bolts or something. Maybe a new type of bolt. We'll see. What are they saying? I presume you two are keen to know. Oh yeah. So some other character here. It's talking about Mikola, sorry. I keep saying that. What kind Mikola is doing here. So they're also on the lookout for Mikola. They're like, where are they up to? So that's the main quest of this DLC. It seems to find out what what Mikola's up to. And here we have like another incantation. It seems to be a bear summoning, like summoning a bear head on your head, kind of like what you do with the dragon incantations. It looks like a crucible bear with horns. So that's cool. It's gonna go good for my druid build, you know. Um, why not? Why not become a bear? It's got 2 attacks, it seems, 2 roars. And then look at this pretty place. Field of Blue with Samurai versus this Dancer. You know, kind of looking like the Blue Dancer fairy, you know, from the lore and in the base game, and the Talisman in the base game as well. But she's red instead. You know, I'm liking the dance moves. You know, the flowing sword. I think dancing sword from the base game was fun. Has a cool little R2. Then this one is probably some more dance moves. Always like dancing in these Lancer Tweens, so definitely going to be checking this weapon out, and hopefully this outfit too. You know, I would love to see more dresses, more flowy, dancey stuff. And then another thing, somebody pointed, I think it might have been, who was it? Elden Ring lore video. Someone was saying how this kind of maybe an Everjail they're in or something, because the background is kind of all like black and white, and the foreground is all bluey with the flowers. Um, so it could be some kind of Everjail, but if it is, it's like a big old Everjail. You know, maybe the whole area. Maybe this could be, you know, cross your fingers. Maybe this could be one of the PvP zones. You know, Covenant zone. You know, just some speculation there. And part of the Covenant is the Dancers Covenant. That'd be fucking awesome. Look at this. So this time, they're on a pigs. They're on boars, you know, instead of horses. Can we get a boar, a pig mount? Maybe. Probably not. Probably not. That'd be cool though. But this spear though, great spear, a lightning great spear, but it looks like actually gravity magic. Gravity magic, great spear. Look at that. What kind of Ash of War is that gonna have? So there are probably more of those, you know. And we got different creatures like this one. This is a completely different one, right? Some kind of hippo-looking dinosaur thing with hedgehog spikes, and looks like faith magic, right? And we seen a screenshot earlier that we can use some of that ourselves. Maybe that creature will drop it. Could be a world boss, it seems. And then we got a boomerang dude, you know, a boomerang skeleton with a funny head, and riding a horse with, like, you know, kind of looking like Leonard, all miserable. Their bottom half is all liquidified or something. I don't know. It's weird. But this does look like we're underground, right? We got staglamites and stuff. It's purpley misty. Could this be like the same purple mist area we saw earlier with that sleeping enemy? Could the underground be a sleepy zone? Maybe. And then here's that character we saw in that portrait earlier. It's that same brooch. Taken out. It's pretty gruesome imagery, but pretty memorable, right? Like taking out like this spiky spear out of his head, about to yank his head off almost, and you know, kind of looking like ribs or something. But I think you do see his body behind there, you know, so it's not quite his ribs, and it kind of reminds me of the Elden Ring, right? The way it sprouts out like that. Could that be a part of the Elden Ring that this character was pierced with as punishment, perhaps? You know, similar to, or could it have been maybe they ingested the Elden Ring somehow? They took it into themselves, kind of like how America and Radagon have the Elden Ring in them, but they, like, you know, they got corrupted or something. They gained too much power. I don't know. It grew within them and started, like, you know, growing out and killing them in the process. I guess like maybe some kind of allegory to avarice, greed, or something. The lust for power. Could be. So, some people, I think people was saying how like kind of reminiscent of the old monk from the older from Demon Souls. So maybe this could be a PvP boss summoning PvP players. That'd be cool. Who knows? I think it's Golden Order related. I think they wanted some kind of Golden Order power, and they went too far. Could be a also a gimmick boss maybe like the Rykard of the DLC, similar to how Rykard got eaten by a snake, got corrupted that way. Um, let's see. Um, Next up. So here we got a view of a shield that's also a weapon. One of the weapons Miyazaki mentioned in the interview was, I think, this one that like is also offensive and defensive. And I don't know if they're holding a twin blade on their left hand, on the right hand, sorry. And so if I don't know if it's one weapon combined, it kind of looks like the twin blade could fit onto the outside of the shield or something, and it like could be a trick weapon. I don't know, or if it's just they just happen to have a twin blade and it's actually just two separate weapons. Um, you get a better look at the fight between for against this guy Mesmer. He's calling himself. Uh, Basically, he's taking out all the people who have been stripped of the grace of gold. You know, all shall meet death. Um, he used to be the main baddie. I think he's like probably a near end boss, if maybe the penultimate boss to this DLC. Um, but it seems pretty cool. Spikes come out of the ground when he dives in there with the fire. Coming out, touch the withered arm. So here we have again pretty much confirmation how to enter the DLC. Come now, touch the withered arm, and travel to the realm of shadow. And people have been wondering who exactly is speaking. There's different ideas. I thought it was Melina at first, but then someone was mentioning how it sounded kind of like Nefeli. But then I think Miss Chalice on YouTube said that it sounds like Mikla, like the actress who plays Mikla, because it's actually a woman who plays Mikla's voiceover, does Mikla's voiceover, and I think maybe it's Mikla that's guiding you to telling you to touch that withered arm. Travel to the realm of shadow. Perhaps his ghostly form appears before you after you defeat Mog, after you defeat Radon, because that's what you got to do. Apparently Miyazaki's like that you have to defeat both Moog and Radon to get access to DLC. And so he appears there maybe, and he'll tell you to touch that arm. And then we get one of these final shots here. The wings of the crucibles, that last remaining crucible art that was missing in the base game that we all wanted. And here we go, we got wings. Now the thing is, could this be the Ash of War of this weapon? Because he's holding that twin blade. He's not holding a seal or a catalyst or anything. So that's what maybe would seem, which, a little bit of a letdown, because I would want to have it on the build where I have all the crucible spells on my incantation slots. But maybe there's also an incantation. There's also an Ash of War. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely some cool shots of them going in there. I will not be far behind. May we meet again. So yeah, that kind of indicates that it is Mikla, since he's the character you're following into the realm of shadows. So he tells you, okay, touch the arm, get into this realm here, and I'll see you later. You'll probably come across him on your travels. Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. And here we have a glimpse. Looks like Mikla. We got those braids. We got a crown, it seems. holding up, their hand to the Erdtree. Now the Erdtree now, or these two trees here, they're he's almost like giving it light, and the branches up top are all white, and it kind of looks almost like fungus fibers, maybe, you know, fungus mushrooms related to death, perhaps death blight. Um, Zyostorm, I believe, was one of the first people who had that theory that perhaps the Erdtree is a parasite and fungus is a big theme in the game and is actually a mushroom or something. I don't know. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. Or it could just be like divine white light, And there we go. The release date, June 21st. Got all this cool stuff. You got I guess that comes with a soundtrack, the collector's edition, this cool statue. I hear it's already sold out. But yeah, it's too expensive, right? We don't really need that. And again, I think in fine print it says that with this gesture, you can unlock it in game with, I believe, without the pre-order. So I don't think you should worry about pre-ordering it. But yeah, it's gonna be on. The collector's edition is on PS5 and Xbox X and S only. But then you can still, on the old gens. I'm still on the PS4, so luckily I can still get it via download. Yeah, I guess that's it. So basically, yeah, June 21st. That's like 4 months away or so. It's not that long. This I think might even could be the ending of the DLC. Izaki in an interview was saying how they went back and tried to make it more clear, when the DLC ends to give you an indication of like that you've completed the DLC. Perhaps it was unclear in the early stages, and maybe it could be an indication, kind of like the world state changes. Maybe the Erdtree here starts glowing white at the end or something, kind of like how when you defeat Malekith in the base game, the Erdtree burns and the whole skybox changes almost, right? So it's like maybe it could be the opposite, where the tree becomes golden at the end, and that's how you defeated and completed the DLC. Maybe. So that's speculation there. But he said again that it's not going to affect the main game, so they'll be kind of separate. But it would be nice to go to the Shadowlands, to a nice bright tree at the end, right? Versus the big old fire in the sky, the base game. I sometimes like I prefer not to like burn the tree sometimes in some playthroughs, right? Just not even go that far. Of course you can go to New Game Plus, but yeah. But yeah, that's Shadow Erdtree. Anything else? We can speculate. There's about what else we might see. We didn't see too much underground areas, but I do feel like there's gonna be more underground areas. We maybe saw some, but it's kind of hard to tell. There's definitely day and night cycle here as well. Maybe there'll be more changes to that. Maybe it'll affect the world more this time. But yeah, we pretty much covered the basic details before we watched this little trailer here. Also another interesting thing is that I think at some point Mikola's like, or somewhere in the press release or somewhere it says where Mikola is awaiting his lord. So I think it'd be kind of cool if he's another romance option. Basically, you can marry Mikola at the end, kind of like how you can do with Ronnie. So that'd be kind of cool to have another option in the game. That could be a possibility. And yeah, another thing that Miyazaki said, I'm going to quote here. I think this is from the Famitsu article, he said that, in fact, the Land of Shadows is the place where America became a god and the Golden Tree was born. Naturally, there was a culture that existed before the Golden Tree, and the Lion Dance character is derived from that culture. But yeah, talking about that lion character, which is pretty cool. So interesting, right? And so this could be, even though I said it takes place in the present, it's kind of misleading, right? Because he's saying that it's where America became a god. So I guess beforehand, America may grew up here and became a god or something here, and this is where the Erdtree is born. Maybe we're seeing a new Erdtree being born here in this imagery here with the tree wrapped around another. And like I said, with the idea of like at the end there, maybe it glowing white at the end, glowing gold perhaps. That can be the birth of a new Erdtree. And perhaps Miyazaki is lying, and it's in fact this is in the past, and we're influencing, what the tree is going to look like in the future. I don't know, in the base game. That's an interesting little tidbit, yeah. But yeah, that's basically what I got here. I'm excited. I'm still excited. There's probably going to be another, most likely a launch trailer. There might be, a further gameplay preview. They did that with the base game. They did a gameplay preview, like a 20-minute video or something, a few months after they released the gameplay reveal trailer. Though I'm not sure they'll do it for this one because it is smaller than the base game. So I don't know. They probably don't want to reveal too much. But maybe. But that they'll certainly release a launch trailer. But I don't think I want to see anything else. I think I'm satisfied with all this. I don't think I want to partake in more of the marketing. I'm ready. I'm gonna make some builds. Basically, I'm gonna get all my builds to, or most of them to defeat Mog, and defeat Radahn. That way, I'm ready to go to the DLC with all my characters. That's probably a good idea. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna probably go and watch some other lore videos and analysis, and enjoy my rest of the night. Maybe I'll come back, and like I said, I might come back to actually and stream Elden Ring. Maybe do some build craft and preparing for this DLC, this expansion. Anyway, take care, folks. Anyway, take care, folks. See you later.